But I now want to switch over to California, the redistricting process, and what you all think about Newsom and his future.
The future's bright for Newsom. I mean, so obviously we're gonna have a recall, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes sense in some ways that Republicans are looking forward and thinking, my God, like in general elections, we get trounced. Maybe in a special election, we've got a chance, and maybe we've got a better chance given like that we're at a low watermark right now with COVID, the EDD scandal, all this other stuff that people are building up around controversy and all of that. But the challenge for the recall folks is that the election is not being held today, and if the election's held in November and everybody's got their vaccine and kids are back in school and we're all making out with each other in the street, like, and going back.
That's why I moved to California.
Hey,
I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, this is what's coming.
Sesh?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you moved to Midtown Sacramento, you knew that was part of the deal. There'll be a day where we all just go make out in the streets. But when we were in elementary or in high school, we learned about the Spanish flu, and then later
making out.
Huh?
And making out in high school.
Yeah, we learned about spin the bottle and all that stuff. But we learned about the Spanish flu, and then we learned about the Roaring '20s, and nobody really connected the dots and said, like, hey, potentially part of the Roaring '20s was coming out of this years-long, suffering that the country was going through. And I feel like we're going to kind of head into this euphoric period of as a country. I'm hoping we do in this fall head into this euphoric period where we're getting to reconnect with our families, getting to go back to restaurants that are opening, getting to do the things we wanted to do. And maybe by just by circumstances, elected officials who are in office now are going to kind of ride that wave of euphoria and be able to come into the 22 election cycle in very different circumstances than if those elections were being held today. And I think Gavin will benefit from that. The other thing that the recall folks maybe weren't counting on was the fact that this recall is going to be done with every voter in the state being mailed a ballot. That's the election system we're still under because of the COVID stuff. So you're going to have 22 million voters all receiving ballots in a state that Biden won by 30 points, much greater than the margin that Gore won into the state in 2000. So going into 2003, 2003 when Schwarzenegger won was kind of a unicorn election where you had this huge celebrity that coalesced the Republican vote. You had a wayward lieutenant governor who jumped in the race to give Democrats the permission structure to vote for the recall, and because they had a Democrat they could vote for as an option. And you had 6 million fewer voters even registered. A high turnout election in November, post-COVID, booming economy. Good night.
Right. So
it's interesting. Like everything has to go right for the recall supporter, like in terms of timing. Because, I think the earliest it could possibly be is in August. So right around the time kids would be going back to school. But really, it's everyone I've talked to said that the sort of November timeline is what seems to make what seems really possible. So, especially with with Biden's immunization schedule, you're talking about people be vaccinated. My kids' schools are already reopening soon in a few weeks here. So by then there would be so much more open. And so that really takes a lot of the wind out of the sails. And I was curious, to me, Newsom could almost come out stronger. It's like it's like having a snap election in the UK, right? And you come out on the other side, like it's like a vote of confidence type deal.
So to be real, the other thing about a recall, most people don't realize this. There's no campaign finance limits in a recall. So
this is the thing that blew my mind. So like for Newsom, it will be a no, it would be a recall committee, a no. So it's like an IE, right? So there's no, he has no fundraising limits. It's not a candidate committee.
Yeah, so he could have ads on national television if he wants to. Like he could run $1 billion campaign if he wants to. I mean, there are enough rich Californians, donors to Newsom, donors on the Democratic side. There's enough national Democrats who could see this as an opportunity to push back on those who are trying to recall or kidnap the governor of Michigan, to, blame Democrats around the country. They could use this as a platform with unlimited fundraising, unlimited spending. And you could have a situation where not only does Gavin survive this, but he is given an opportunity for $1 billion, PR effort to bolster him on a national stage, put him in a position where 22 just becomes a cakewalk for him, and makes Democrats stronger up and down California and even national. I mean, there's a silver lining to this recall for Democrats. Nobody wants to have that risk that, okay, 5% chance COVID comes back, there's a variant, kids don't go back to school, businesses are failing, it's horrible, and they oust the governor. Nobody wants to gamble with that 5% chance. I think Democrats learned that in 2016, that even if something you think is completely impossible, that you don't want to gamble with it, so let's not even try. But if it does happen, there's a very good likelihood that you're going to see the most money spent in a California election, and all to the benefit of Newsom and Democrats, and that this will end up being something that kind of blows up in the faces of folks who on the Republican side were advocating for it.
It doesn't seem like there's as of today. I mean, of course, things can always go crazy once it's officially certified, but there doesn't seem like there's going to be a Cruz Bustamante this time.
Unfortunately.
No,
Where have you gone, Cruz?
I mean, you're already seeing a lot of the unity press conferences and stuff. It seemed like Dems really learned the lesson from 03. Like, I mean, I've someone that told me about what Bustamante's logic was, to still have a Davis person if yes passed, but what the effect was to weaken Gray Davis. So that seems to be the lesson that was taken away from it.
Yeah, I mean, the message he had even had signs that was like recall no, Cruz yes, like that. It kind of defied some of the logic because it made it less of a binary choice and more of like a fluid choice. And it, like I said earlier, it gave Democrats and some independents this permission structure where they're like, okay, I can now rationalize voting for the recall because I know that I can vote for this person who can be the next governor.
Yeah.
If people might say, okay, I did a poll and 46% of people want to recall the governor. Great. Now do a poll and say, okay, do you want to recall the governor? And your choices are, here's a list of 500 Republicans running for recall and not one Democrat you can name, nobody being supported by Democrats. Now, are you for the recall? A lot more Democrats are going to be like, I guess I'm not for the recall now because there's nobody to replace it,